6 or that.
We could talk about
There's
that
a
later.
picture way back. My mother and dad's in there, Grandpa Newton, but I wanted to get with Fred Oswald. See, the Newton, great-grandfather Newton, one of his daughters married Bill Newton, or Bill Oswald. And then they went into the sheep business about 1890 together.
Okay.
With 700 head of sheep each, according to what I've been told. It was before I got here, Kelsey. But there is an old picture, and I'm sure that was taken at the Dipper, where the cabin is. You've been there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is some from my side of the family, the Burke side. That's shows some kids. Those are some of your cousins in there. When I sponsored from the Lions Club a junior deal, that's Bobby and his crew there. But this is a Burke's Wonderland. My grandfather Burke came from. He was on the railroad, got into Grand Junction, Colorado. He was fighting for the 8-hour day because they used to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. And so he, being a union organizer and fighting for the 8-hour day, they fired him. So a lot of the railroaders said, well, go into business, we'll patronize you. So it wasn't long, then they came to Utah. But the Burke's Wonderland, I really think that's your Uncle Steve right there. But I can't tell because, but I know some of these other guys, they're all deceased now, but there is the bartender acting the bartender. This was in Burke's Wonderland.
So it's just like a saloon?
That's what it was.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds very exciting.
Did you know that, a lot of people were dying? I'm going to let you, well, you wouldn't be interested in one of those.
What?
But a lot of those guys there, that's a Joe Husband, Wally Farmer, Jay Howarth. I really think these two guys here, when nobody'd show up on Fridays and Saturday nights out in Magna to fight from, say, Grantsville, Tooele, Bingham, or East Salt Lake, South Salt Lake, then they fought one another just for fun. It cost a new shirt every weekend because they tear it up. But that's one of the early pictures. I wanted to get with Fred Oswald to say, hey, who the hell are all these other people? But see, there's the old type sheep camp.
Do you have any idea what year this is?
Well, I would bet it's about 1930. About a week before you were born. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give you a picture of that. Because there's your grandmother and grandfather Newton right there. She was a Dunford. There's a lot of Dunfords in Magna or in Salt Lake City. See, I got more of these pictures here. You can have that one.
Okay, thank you.
That's one of the earlier pictures, but I don't know who a lot of those people are. But I'll tell you what. Where the hell did I do with my glasses? Right there. That's Grandpa Newton right there. That's my dad, and there's my mother. But I don't know. These are probably sheep herders he hired. See, when it started out, do you think your dad went out on the desert or any of the other boys when they were 4 years old?
Yes. Maybe. I don't
know. No. They had to be down at the farm, so he had to hire somebody to go out with him to pull camp. Because, back in those days, everything was done with horses. In my lifetime, we used to put up hay down here in the barn with horses. I've gone through horses, automobiles, airplanes, and it's even changing faster now. Like you got that damn thing there from Apple.
Yep.
You keep buying Apple because I got stock in it and it pays good dividends.
So does he.
Yep. So, but here's a lot of pictures that in this account I could show you. There's a picture of the dipper when they used to dip the sheep. There's a sheep herder, and there's Bill Oswald, who married your dad's aunt, one of Grandpa Newton's daughters. That's when they went into sheep business. That pine tree, I never was a pine tree there then, but some of those oak brush are still there. But look how the corral looked like.
Yeah.
They just wood they could gather up, and they run a chute. And this guy's got a pole. I used to see that pole there. It was made like a 3/4 inch pipe, say 10 foot long, and on the end it hooked around like this. Well, what they did, why it got called a dipper, is because they hooked into the spring, and with 2-inch pipe it came down, the water came down from the spring. It went to, you can see where they fired it, because nothing grows even today. So that's, that's almost, that's 100 years ago.
Wow.
Nothing grows there because I think the potash was so heavy, it's killed the vegetation out right there. Nothing grows there. And there's some of the rocks. So I'm putting a fence all up around there that'll include the cabin, about 3 to 4 acres. And I want to rebuild the corral, and I want to dig that out and find out where they used to dip them. I never did see that. But they always call us, Bill, we're going to the dipper. God, I'd get excited. We're going to the herd, or we're going to the dipper, you know. Because that's where we used to come into this corral to do all our docking. That's where you cut off their tails. They cut the tails off, all of them. You earmarked them whether they were wether or a ewe lamb you're going to keep, because you had to replace some of your sheep every year. But you earmarked them different. The one ear, you would bend it over and cut the end off, and then you cut what we called a crop and a swallow fork. Your dad, when I first started going there as a kid, Grandpa Newton and your dad did all the docking. Then, when Grandpa got too old, well, he couldn't go, but a lot of this I have to make up. For example, there's the old cabin at the dipper. Do you remember seeing that?
Mm-hmm.
But see, part of the poles are gone. And I always wondered, well, how come it never had a top on it? What happened to the top? Because it never had that top. See that pole that comes up there?
Mm-hmm.
They run a ridge pole underneath there, and that's all canvas. When the family, and a lot of this family is part of the Oswald family. In here I've marked, in one of these, I think that's Grandpa Newton, and maybe Grandma Newton, but they're standing there. These were tough days. There was no money. In other words, if you could make enough to feed the family and pay the bills, fine. Then the Depression came, you couldn't even pay the taxes or your bill because you always went to the bank and borrowed money. So
at that time, were they lived somewhere else and they would travel up here to work, or were they living right there?
They would only come up here in the summer.
Okay, but the whole family lived there through the summer?
Well, yeah, my mother and all the kids lived there. And then, I don't know when your dad went out with the sheep. See, now, Marlene made a statement that she shouldn't have made at one of our family meetings. She said, well, if it wasn't for my dad, there wouldn't be a sheep company. In a way, that's right. And in other ways, the whole family worked at it.
Right.
But Ralph Newton is the guy who I think helped Grandpa save it during the Depression, because there was no money. In fact, Grandpa Newton said, I couldn't even borrow enough money to pay my taxes.
Wow.
And the taxes on it was probably $8 or $10 a year. There was no money, folks. And it's hard for you young people to understand. How much a day do they pay you? What an hour do they pay you?
I'm salary, but it's about $21 an hour.
$21 an hour. even in my lifetime when I started at Kennecott, $9.63 a day. This home here was built because of World War II. I moved it here. $1,365 for this house. The drapes, the carpet, everything that got in here cost me more money than what I paid for the house. So things change. Did you come up 5600 West?
Yes.
From 5600 West to Redwood Road, from 21st used to be a gravel road. Your dad and them would camp it just up from Webster University in Magna. Webster University, you run to the 6th grade. If you went 6 years there, you knew everything. You didn't have to go to school again. But God, was I excited when them sheep come around that mountain, you know, and parked there for the night. Because the next day we came out, they went on 21st South, and they put those sheep on the gravel road into Salt Lake, the west side, I guess, stayed overnight. I helped them up, then it went in right through Salt Lake City with 2,000, 3,000 head of sheep. Women out there in their aprons and that. Get them goddamn sheep off my lawn. They're eating my grass. They're eating my roses. Rah, 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 rah. And I think we're going to get killed. Yeah. Things change. And you've seen those changes. $21 an hour. That's, you know, that's getting close to $200 a day. I remember my dad was a union organizer at the power plant where I worked. There's a long story there, but he said, you know, one of these days, it won't be long till we'll be making $100 a day. I can remember Jack Johnson coming in my office years after my dad was dead. Said, well, one of your dad's predictions came true today. It was July the 1st, contract time. The wages were over $100 a day for the higher paid guys. So yeah, this is the one thing you're going to have to get used to. This all, where you come up 56, it's all businesses now. There used to be lakes from 56 to 3,200. We water skied, fish, hunt ducks. Right down below your dad's house when he lived, or your grandpa's house, in there in Hunter. But I saw pheasants in there where you wouldn't believe. They exploded out of there. We all hurried. We saw them there. We had to wait till noon. The pheasants huddled down in all this heavy grass. We took off down towards the duck club then. There's lakes down there then. And we thought, well, we saw a lot of them fly in there. In the bulrushes. We'll get down there. My dad stayed up there, and he messed around in all that heavy brush, and all of a sudden it scared him. He said there must have been 100 pheasants jumped up at one time. He shot left-handed. He shoots one, knocks a rooster down, pumped it, and a gun come apart. He got one shot. Right behind where your grandfather Newton lived. Yeah. It makes it hard when you've grown up, when you come off the desert, and he was out there with them all the time, because when Grandpa got so old, he had to take care of he did the business end, and lived here at the farm, because somebody had to be here. But the one who's made the most money out of it was Grandma's favorite, which is Uncle Scott. It's too bad. It should spill these. I always believed it would be the Newton Sheep Company forever. But it went from 20,000 acres in Chalk Creek, in his farm down here, to 320 acres now. Now, one of the things that ruined the value, or in people's minds, remember they paid $50,000 for an acre when they found out that they still owned an acre in there. So one outfit paid $50,000. I says, I'll never understand why they ever paid that for that acre. Because Frank Newton says, well, half of it sits in the creek. And Bill, what the hell's her name, that lives in the houses there in Chalk Creek on the main creek, that somehow you must have been your dad, Scott, and Eugene decided, well, they'd given them 13 acres.